Hello, and welcome back to the Electric Punch Podcast. As always, I am your host, Logan Grigsby, and we're going to have an absolutely electrifying show for you tonight. For the usual announcements, the Electric Punch Podcast stands with people of all cultural, ethnic, religious, racial, and sexual backgrounds. We believe in creating a safe and positive environment for anyone and everyone who wants to participate in our festivities. So remember, look out for each other. If you see something, say something. Drink more water. Be kind and love each other. Wear a jacket. It is winter. And with that, I have the absolute pleasure to welcome on tonight's guest, Chris Otter, founder and CEO of Hy-Tekk Productions, founder of Elevated Life Backpacks, and artist management over at Level Management.
How you doing?
Not too bad. First off, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come on. It means a lot. I know it's not super easy. So my first question is, I ask a lot of people this, to define what a wook is. And they tell me, Google Chris Otter. So some people have even said, Wook King of Kansas City. Can you tell me what a wook is and how the title Wook King of Kansas City fits to you?
Oh, man. A wook can be all sorts of things. It started as a negative connotation and started coming up to just being your standard hippie that goes to shows, essentially, I think, nowadays. And some people will take a derivation of that into a different way. I'm just out here doing my own thing and trying to live my best life. And I think it gets put off that way a lot with me and the big hair situation as well. So,
absolutely. Okay, so let's get started with a little bit of background information. Are you originally from Kansas City, or kind of what brought you here?
I grew up in Shawnee.
Okay, hell yeah. So growing up, what kind of was the role of music in your life, and what kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Listened to everything. My parents took me to a lot of concerts as a child, and I grew up going to a record store a lot that my mom's friend owned in town.
Oh, yeah. And then when and what kind of got you introduced to electronic dance music?
That record store
Mhm.
I would go to randomly after school. I would hang out at a lot, ride my bike there. I would listen to CDs and flip through different albums. And I picked up, if I want to say it, This Is Techno Now album.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't too fond of it, and it was the first thing I'd heard that I didn't really like, and I took it home and eventually started listening to it. And later on, I found a show flyer and didn't have a clue what it was and ended up at that event, which is a whole nother story.
Okay. So do you have any shows or experiences that stick out in your mind that kind of inspired you to do more and be a bigger part of the scene in the community?
We did the first Alex Gray Schmongle show at the Uptown Theater. We had done a run of Schmongle shows years prior with Cicada Rhythm out of Granada Theater. Doing the first one, we brought Alex Gray to. It was really special because we got to work with Quixotic, and I got to handpick things like hand balancers, contortionists, people that were aerial fabric people from all around the country, and specifically areas in the Midwest, and talents that myself and the team liked, and get to curate those kinds of things and do a little bit more than just your artistry with bands or DJs on stage, and actually working with live performers in the aspect of the other live performances.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hell yeah. Okay, so I guess let's start at the beginning. Kind of what year and when did you found Hy-Tekk Productions, and kind of what did that look like, and what kind of inspired you to decide to go that route with your career?
So Hy-Tekk was founded in the fall of 2009. We really started throwing it as Hy-Tekk branded 2010. We had been doing shows, though, and parties for a while prior to that. And I started working with a couple other companies like ENKB Productions and Reanimated Productions back in the day, helping do load in for shows. I did photography work, help sit there and get the art and deco set up, tear down, and would essentially be the guy next to this guy, Travis T, from Foundation out of St. Joe. And we would be the guys there, just pretty much setting up, tearing down every night and running sound, and started learning stage management in that realm and getting into the industry.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what were kind of some of the first shows you helped promote? Who were some of the first people that were playing at them? Where at? I know you just said you kind of were working out in St. Joe, and what did those kind of look like? How many? I guess how many people were there? I'm sure back 2009, 2010, 2011 shows were a lot smaller than they were today, right?
Yeah, definitely. There were shows in other markets that would do 1,000 people, and they do 50 to 100 people or less here in the market. A lot of the scene that was doing what we call hard ticket and venue shows wasn't really popping like it is now. It was all underground stuff at the time frame. It was good, but just not the same at that aspect.
Absolutely. So when you first started production, did you have a lot of previous knowledge and experience, and how much of it was figuring out as you go, trial and error? And do you have kind of any prior education when you went into this?
I came straight out of the body shop world and was working on cars and doing custom restoration and working on hydraulics and stuff. Just throwing house parties and developing house parties and kegers into becoming DJs on site at it. And over time, working with the Reanimated guys and learning stuff through there. And over time further, I started just, we did the shows, and I had some partners back in the day that helped start Hy-Tekk with me. And we just went at it.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! That sounds like a good way to get started. Wish I could have checked out one of those original keggers. It sounds like a good time. So, what do you think would be one of the biggest sacrifices that you've made for your career?
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, obviously, time, work, energy, money. Starting a business like this is never a cheap thing. So, obviously, there are several things that you could kind of divide that into.
Definitely having to learn to, work on my own and work through things has been the most challenging part. But the biggest sacrifice has been, having literally no spare time. I don't have any time for myself or really others. It's 8 o'clock in the morning till 2, 3 in the morning a lot of the time.
Absolutely. So it's got to be pretty hard to find a work-life social balance, and that has to be very draining, just trying to make time for yourself and to breathe.
Yeah, and it's challenging on others that are around you as well, and any personable one-on-one relationships get, hard to have. And being on the road 40-50% of the year at times is you meet
Very
people
difficult.
and then they think that you're just not hitting them back up, and ultimately it's work related. And
Absolutely. That does have to be extremely tough and challenging, and people tend to take things like that personally when it's not. You're just busy, and sometimes you don't even see messages and stuff like that. Okay, so are there any events that you helped put together that made you feel like you made it and everything was going to work out, and that you were on the right track with your career choices?
Not really. I think it started when I realized when I was on the right track is when I got the first offer for summer camp. And I went to my mentors and kind of asked if they thought I was ready for the job, and it was a 50-50 split, and I just had to take the dive.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where, I started getting the drive to start doing bigger and larger festival gigs now.
Absolutely. It is a big leap of faith when doing something like that. So can you tell me the story behind the name Hy-Tekk Productions and what that kind of means and symbolizes to you?
Yeah. So going back to the guys that I mentioned that started Hy-Tekk, Patrick Granatello, he moved on to being a talent buyer for some time with AEG. And then Mike Jones, who's running a furniture moving company in town now. Mike and I were neighbors, and I had been doing these series of house parties for 2-3 years, and I would throw kegers in Lawrence, Manhattan, Kansas City, sometimes on the same weekend, sometimes 2 on the same night, and I would spread teams of people to go manage them and do these things. And Mike wanted help throwing these parties, and I was like, all right, I'm down, we'll do this, I'll help you throw a party. And we decided at 8 p.m. we're going to do this, and I'm going to get him a venue, and made a couple calls from this show that I had seen that was on New Year's Eve, and I think it was called Frisky Dingo, and it was a B&E party at a house, and I just happened to know the guy who lived on one of the floors of the house. And we decided we're going to reach out to him and get the approval to use the house, not knowing the full story of the B&E situation at the time. And we got the approval, and Mike and I made this whole party and everything. And at some point, I decided to go to sleep. And I woke up to a company named Hy-Tekk Productions on an event page and wasn't the most excited about it. There was also 2 stages of music, one featuring bluegrass, one featuring DJs, which...
quite the divide there.
Yeah, and at this point, I was not in a great mood in the morning and was just in the spot where I was like, well, I guess we have to run with this.
We're here now.
Yeah, and it gets even better. Later down the road, we find out that the house, and I find out the story of it being a B&E by driving by the house with my mom, of all people, and there's a for rent sign in front of the home. And I'm like, oh, God, Mom, we got to call this number. And we call this number, and the guy tells me about this New Year's Eve party that these people broke into the floor, and they just threw it and trashed the whole back of the house, and he doesn't know what happened. Well, at this point, the kid that lived on the top floor of the house that I knew was telling me that his uncle that owned the house, which is a complete lie we've figured out at this point, and I pretty much tell him, hey, I'm telling your landlord, or else we're going to be let out. If you're not going to let us throw that party in the house, we're going to tell the landlord you did this beforehand. And he had no other choice but to help us get into the floor of the house below that evening. And we threw this party, and by 10, 11 p.m., there was 600-700 people there.
Oh, man.
And at that point, we were like, all right, this is a real thing. And that was called Bumperoosa. That was our first party that we actually threw as Hy-Tekk.
Okay, hell yeah. So quite an interesting beginning to the journey, to say the least.
Definitely.
Okay. So do you have any artists, promoters, producers, or anything like that that inspire you and kind of, inspire you?
Yeti and Grizz. I'm very about morals. Artists that are about morality. I like sound design. Obviously, and I do have sound styles that I like, but when we're talking about the type of people that I would like to be able to see pushing forward our community and being on the top of that tier, morality and what they push and drive, those are, the kind of thing that I look for.
Absolutely. It's a good thing that, it's absolutely blessed when an artist that you follow absolutely has those morals and kind of believes in the same things and sentiments that you do. It just makes you be able to form a deeper and better connection with them.
Yeah, and the Grizz thing's awesome for it too, seeing, we started working with him in 2011 in Kansas City, so just getting to see where he's taken everything and gone with it and developed is just amazing.
Absolutely. Okay, now that COVID is over, some people are saying that EDM shows and raving has gone quote unquote mainstream, and this has brought some negative people who only come to shows to get intoxicated or to party. In the sense of and some people say the sense of plur, peace, love, unity, respect has kind of left the community. How do you feel about this sentiment?
First off, my opinion is going to be an opinion of somebody who is 38 years old and is in the spot of has been going to raves since they were 14. This conversation since Frankie Bones started the Plur outline has been, I think, the same rotating conversation from day one.
Absolutely.
Granted that the outline of Plur has a religion change from how he originally meant it to be, but I also think that, the peace, the love, the unity, the respect outlines that go along with that also coincide with what we not only as citizens here in our country, but worldwide should be able to have, and so people in our demographic have always kind of come from an eclectic world or had troubles, and not every one of us has fit in.
Absolutely.
So on that kind of outline, I try to be as respectful and understanding of everybody's scenarios that we can. Some people come into the community and might have had a drug issue before they found the music, and they're struggling through those independent addictions.
Absolutely.
And they might be needing help, and this could be the community that helps them get through that. Other people found this and found addiction in a community, whether it be EDM, hip hop, rock, any other sound genre. And they're working their way through it at this point, just like they would in any sound genre.
Absolutely.
So,
I could not agree with that sentiment more. Okay, so you're obviously, as you said previously, you're extremely busy, early days and early nights. But what are some hobbies and activities that you like to do in your free time to kind of unwind and get a little bit of a breather from your work? I know I've seen that you do slacklining. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, I do a version of slacklining called trick lining and long lining. We're more of setting 150 foot, 200 foot, 1-inch lines, anywhere from 6 to 8 foot, 10 foot high, tree to tree in a park. We put them at a little bit of a different tension ratio than what you would see your standard 2-inch beginner line that people have, and there's a significant amounts of different bounce or sway side to side that you can set your rigging for. Been doing that for almost 10 years.
And is that pretty physically intensive? Or I know obviously having a good sense of balance, I'm terrible at balancing. I can barely skateboard, but yeah, how physical is that?
It's physically intensive. The thing I would tell everybody though is that it's muscle memory, and you got to think like, I'm 6'5". I'm a tall, skinny guy with zero balance, and I'm as goofy as you can ever meet. If I'm capable of doing this, you're capable of doing it. It's just time, effort, energy, just like anything else is.
Absolutely.
But other than that, my dog.
Oh, what kind of dog?
I have a Commodore.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you have been in Kansas City for a long time, but you've also worked pretty much everywhere in the U.S. and even Mexico, correct?
Yeah, Mexico, Costa Rica, a few other countries.
Okay. What are some of the culture clashes that you've seen comparing us in Kansas City to some other Kansas cities? And what do you think Kansas City does well compared to other cities?
Despite we might have a lot of what looks like community drama here when you look on social media sometimes, scene to scene and person to person, I think that there's a lot of small cliques within our community now, and these cliques are growing more. And for the most part, there's a lot of people out here, and it's a really caring, welcoming scene.
Absolutely.
I go to a lot of other communities around America, including when it comes into trying to work, start your own company, be a stagehand even, or a DJ, or just a person who wants to come into a community as a new person. It's very much like a high school situation, no matter what demographic they're in, and it's hard to relate or find new friends. So I think that's one of the things that's big in that world.
Absolutely. And I feel like that kind of, like you said, kind of like high school can apply to a lot of places. At the end of the day, people want to form cliques, and some people like to gatekeep for some reason. I don't know why, but some people like to gatekeep.
Yeah, and overall with the drama and everything in the city here, I think when it comes person to person, it's a lot healthier than what the appearances we see digitally are.
Absolutely. So let's talk about kind of the average day for a show. What does that look like for you? What time do you wake up? When do you show up to a venue? Who all are you calling and talking to make sure everything is set up properly and safely? How does kind of that whole day look for you?
Every show's different. Every festival build we do is different. Call times are different. Load times are different. End times, start times. All depends on what we're doing the night before. Largely with my team, it's calling Aaron, Jindra, my partners Mickey, Jesse, or Dan, Dylan. A lot of us are consistently in connection together doing things, as well as I have promoters in 5 or 6 other markets that we regularly work with too.
Absolutely. Okay, so do you have any kind of pre-show rituals or activities that you always do for good luck or to make things go smoothly, or even just kind of like a pre-show meal or anything like that?
Again, depends every venue, every show's
Mhm.
different. If we're doing some more new venue underground vibe type thing, I'm got a different thing that I do in that versus walking into a room. But typically not really. It's just kind of get there, get this thing going, and let's get it out the door and have the best night we can for everybody around.
Absolutely. So, what are some of the shows or events that you're most proud of having a hand in?
515 Alive, Cosmic Kingdom, do production management and site management, as well as stage management for the daytime and nighttime at Infrasound Music Festival. Summer camp's been the big one for me, running the Starshine stage there. I do all the production and stage management there as well. And as this year, we're adding Envision to the list of stage management for the light night at Lapa, Gym and Jam. I'm doing over there at the Onyx stage now. And here locally, it's every now and then being able to throw out big massives. And I really get my kicks on doing the small encore and 200 cap developing artists, because working with all those festival stages and developing artists I get to be with and trying to get them out to the community here is a really big thing for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you take a lot of pride in seeing people grow and actually getting to see kind of their trajectory and kind of seeing how they build themselves up and seeing how they build and grow. That's awesome. Looking back through your journey, what are some random fun memories that pop in your head when thinking back through your career?
Man, my 35th birthday, throwing an underground party that was actually underground and having 20 people haul a generator, drop it 15 foot over a wall and carry it a half a mile or more through mud to be able to set up this thing, and only having 2 10-minute entry times to be able to come in.
Oh, man.
I've done some gold coin parties that have been after Spangles that you had to do certain things or agree to certain things beforehand in the crowd when somebody asked you random questions. And you just knew when you showed up to that party that things were going to be out of control and wild by that point. A lot of our call point numbers that we used to do and anymore, I like to do a lot of college market and just like the smaller room things too.
Absolutely. So, being in the community for as long as you've been, you said, and started out 2009-ish, so about 15 years. How have you seen it grow and evolve over the years? What are some of the growing pains that you've seen, and how do you think the community has positively evolved over the years?
So I started probably going to shows in 2006 regularly in town.
Okay, so getting closer to almost 20 years.
Yeah, but with my first one being at 14, it's been a crazy trajectory difference, and I'm excited to see where things are going. And I think with the new development of festivals that are happening in the market and the things that are going to keep coming, that there's a really healthy growth coming for this city. In the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be 5 times bigger than what we can even imagine.
Oh yeah, well, you got my heart going. Several times bigger. Okay, so if you could throw a benefit concert for any charitable cause, what do you think it would be and why?
I want to do another KC Dog Fest.
Oh, KC Dog Fest. I don't believe I've heard of that. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
So I started a dog festival. All the proceeds we made, everything that came in the door went to smaller, not essentially lead Google search shelters in the area. We did like tarot cards for dogs. We did silent discos with a bunch of the guys from around and ladies around town playing. We did a whole bunch of different like dog painting things, paw paintings. We did a corgi race.
Oh,
we did dog yoga. Want to do another thing like that we can develop and start doing charity to more of the animals in the area.
Absolutely. That's badass. Like I absolutely love animals. I have 3 cats. One of them's kind of mean and a bully, but I absolutely love animals. I love dogs. I'm a little sad that I missed the corgi race because I love little corgis. But
It was cute.
that sounds awesome. We do need to take a little 30-minute break, so we will be back. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we are back after a little break. So my first question coming back would be, what do you think would be some of the more challenging aspects of your career, and what would you say are the more rewarding?
Consistently going at it, not always paying attention to what's going on with social media, community banter, just focusing on yourself, keeping true to that, and finding what's up and coming, what's going to be next. Those are probably the more mentally and I'd say physically difficult sides of it.
Absolutely. I do imagine there has to be quite a little bit of burnout when you're doing this constantly, 18-hour days and stuff like that. It does got to be, I imagine, crazy taxing.
Yeah, it can be.
So yeah, what would you say are kind of the most rewarding part to you?
Honestly, looking over the crowd when you get everything and being able to see everybody's happiness. And that's the largest part of why we do this situation. There's not much more than knowing that you did that, and on a good night, everybody's going home safely, and, everybody's got stories and stuff to tell the next day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So have you ever worked or put on a show where things just didn't quite go right, be it artist delays, technical difficulties, venue problems? And what did you kind of learn from the experience?
So first off, no show goes perfectly.
Absolutely.
That's a complete flaw of belief. When it does, you got really, really lucky. Learning from it is just to roll with the punches. Every show is going to happen once you get it into the right spot, and just making sure that things are going to happen safely for consumer and artist, and ultimately, making sure that things are taken care of and promoted across the board.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so what is some kind of advice that you'd give? There are a lot of newer production companies out here, especially after COVID. What is kind of some advice that you'd give out for somebody trying to make a name for themselves in obviously such a competitive market?
Really just keep at it, do your thing, keep your head down. If you can, find a niche. If you aren't finding a niche, then realistically just keep going with your morals and driving and booking things that are hot, and being the best person that you can be. Ultimately, the community and everybody around, they do talk, and shows do talk also, but people have a choice. So, try to be and lift up what you can. And we've got a lot of kids in our community here too, so try to be the best, that you can for everybody around to look for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you weren't doing the whole music production thing, what do you think you'd be putting your energy to, and what other kind of careers have you looked at in the past? I know you said you were doing body shops and custom builds before this. Is that kind of what do you think you'd still be doing?
So I'm still doing weird builds. We have been doing a couple weird, like 23-inch frame stretches on a moped, and taking a Honda to a Chinese motor to an American body, and just a bunch of weird, unique things that we do in my garage in our spare time. And I'm building a 1938 Model A with a 4BT Cummins diesel in it right now, and a Chevy transmission attached to it. So we're doing a lot of different stuff still in that realm. And I started a cell phone buy and sell company. And, ultimately, I think I probably would have left the body shop world and started just trying to find my own industry, because other than the body shop realm in the music industry, I got fired and lost every job I'd ever had before within 6 months.
Absolutely.
So
I'm not very great at holding a job either. If my boss sees this, you already know.
yeah.
So do you always feel like you've kind of had that build your own business mindset and kind of wanting to build yourself kind of up? I know obviously you have the backpack company, Hy-Tekk. Have you always kind of had that business mindset?
Absolutely not. 12 years ago, I set a goal to myself to not work for anybody else ever again, if I could, and to do everything legally. And I've worked my best to keep within the realms of not working with everybody and every other statement there. So it's been a wild drive, and ultimately, if you want to catch your dreams, you just got to follow them and chase them. And even if you're getting beat up and making $3 to $5 grand, $12 grand a year, you're making something, and that window frame is just going to keep growing if you work on it.
Absolutely. You just got to keep pushing at it, and you can't really give up on that dreams. You got to 100% until you make it a reality. Yeah.
If it doesn't work for you the first time, retool it a little bit, come back, and, eventually you're going to have it figured out for yourself.
Okay, so have you ever had any crazy, wild, or wacky experiences while working on shows, and what have those kind of looked like?
I got peed on at a festival as a stage manager.
Go on.
It was an interesting situation. Ultimately, someone needed help in the crowd. Medics, everything, didn't see it. Jumped off the stage, down the barricade, helped the person, got the person help. Didn't feel comfortable with anybody else around. With my look, the person, I think, felt a little more comfortable.
Talking and being a little bit more open.
Yeah, so we held them, hugged them, sat with them, and next thing you know, I was in a situation that I couldn't do anything but smile and, pat the kids back and help them out. And cops got there, and he took off and came back and had a fanny pack on him that wasn't there beforehand that had a bunch of weird substances in it, and there was no ID attached. And we ended up talking to the officers to throw that bag away, to not have said person go to jail.
Absolutely.
A week later, that person went on Twitter saying that they ate an insane amount of substances and was using a flex on the situation.
Oh my God, this guy. So he's going to sit there, do all this stuff, need help, and he's still going to go to Twitter.
Yeah, and in my spot, you can't go to social media and say anything and call it out. And thankfully, the event that I was working with jumped in and said that, hey, you probably should tone it down next time just because people care.
Absolutely. So it's got to be pretty hard to be the responsible person sometimes, especially when that's how people can thank you, is urinating on you.
It's every concert, every day, something's different. It doesn't matter the demographic of the sound.
Absolutely.
There's going to be alcohol, drugs, or sobriety involved, and wild, crazy things can and will happen.
Absolutely. So you also work as artist management over at Level Management, correct?
Yes.
Can you kind of tell me a bit about how you came to work with them, how long you've been working with them for?
So Jesse, my partner, and Aaron Gindra and I started the brand 4 or 5 years ago. We've worked with artists like Dirt Monkey, Janston, DMVU, a handful of other developing artists as well. I've done a lot of A&R on site at festivals, also helping find and develop and just have relationships with developing acts too, to help bring them on board or give outlines and critique for management and direction for skill set.
Absolutely. So how much of a different skill set is that to being a concert promoter and producer? Exactly how different is that, and how different does your workday look like?
They're one of the same, but also contrasting. The workday is pretty much typical for me, though, is just answering the emails all day long and just changing the hat from the time to time of whether it's production, stage, talent buy, promotion, or, going into the artist realm.
Absolutely. So, would you say it's a little bit more stressful, less stressful, or do they each have their own stresses going into it?
Um, I would say it's not as stressful.
Absolutely. I'm sure people are a little bit easier to talk to and yeah, communicate with. So, what is some advice you would give to music producers that are new and trying to make a name for themselves?
Keep at it and find your sound design. Talk to people, use your tools,
Hmm.
get on Discord, um, go out there and just start networking. If you want to get out there and be a part of something, you got to get out there and actually be a part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've heard that you can only like put out as much as you put out, and if you're not sitting there and making yourself relevant and putting yourself out there like that, it's just not going to happen if you're not putting in that time, energy, and effort to put yourself out there and network and meet people. Um,
Yeah, and you can do that digitally or person to person at shows or, going to events. There's all sorts of different directions for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so, what do you think is the key to creating long-lasting success and wealth within the music industry?
Don't become an electronic music promoter in the Midwest.
Don't do it. Don't even start.
Yeah, I mean, that said, it's getting better.
Mhm.
And soon we'll be at the point where it'll be a fully feasible thing for more than a handful in this region. But it is where it is at this point, and it's developing. Musicians, it's the same challenge. Like, this is a market that is overran, oversaturated in all demographics of sound or genre, no matter, again, whether it's electronic, rock, hip hop, country, they're all flooded. So it's just
Absolutely.
finding your niche and getting it and sticking to it and sawing away.
So, do you think there's a decent market for electro country? I don't know what you call that, but electric yeehaw.
Hey, country raps happen, so let's go.
I love hip hop, and let's not go there. So, what is some advice that you have been given that has always stuck with you?
Those who know, those who don't. When I was starting Hy-Tekk, I was getting really frustrated with having a face person in the company. And that face person wasn't really the person in the background doing a lot of the work, and the community just accepted and liked that person because they were a lot easier to get along with,
Absolutely.
and a friendlier face as well as easier spoken individual. Uh, Ultimately, it's just going back to what I've been saying, keep to yourself, keep working on it, keep your morals in line, know who you are, and just drive at it. If you've
Absolutely.
got your goals are going to happen. Just, try to keep everything as clean as you can.
Absolutely. So you semi recently started Elevated Life backpack and somewhat clothing company?
Yeah, hydration pack. And we're doing the first run of like double-sided artist pashminas. We've got Stephen Cruz, Android Jones, or I'm sorry, Stephen Cruz, Jonathan Singer. We've got some of the Aphex Collective Boys stuff coming out with it, and a handful of other items.
Absolutely. So what kind of inspired you to start this?
My partner Dan Green came up with the idea
Hmm.
when we were at Wakarusa one year.
Hmm.
A few years later, we were at Electric Forest. He was like, "Can't get rid of this idea. I'm still thinking about it." A few months later, he calls me up, and I sent him over pretty much everything that I had ever saved at the time to start the company. And we were both just all in overnight.
Absolutely. So, who goes about kind of designing how everything looks? Is that you? Do you have a certain specific person for that? Is it kind of a group effort with everybody who works with the company?
So I go over all the bag selections for what we call our limited edition or
Hmm.
runs, and he does the flagship runs, which are their in-house designs. Our limited edition artist runs are all done with different people from around the world, known in the festival art culture that you can see at a lot of the live painting areas at festivals in the nation. Those guys, a lot of times, because just being on the festival circuit managing for almost 15 years, I've met a ton of them, and that's where I like to spend my time and energy at when I'm off the clock. So it's developed into this kind of outline, and is just kind of where I find fun, is being able to pick art that I like and trying to present it in a way to other people.
Absolutely.
It's been great to have Dan support my vision on the bags and the designs that we want to run with too.
Absolutely. So if you were to just find a briefcase, let's say it had $50,000 in it, just found it on the street, what are you using that money for to build and expand your brands and businesses?
Man, I don't even know what I would do with the $50,000 briefcase. I don't think I've seen
you get
that
to keep
before.
the briefcase too.
Yeah, I think the briefcase is the most exciting part for me. Yeah, really, I don't know. It's all a time and place situation. You know, if I was in the right mindset, you might be able to say, give it back. If you're in a situation, donate it to a place, or if you're able to do it, throw it to a show. It's just every person, every scenario, every time. It's hard to say what I'd do in that moment.
Absolutely. Well, let's say it's not like somebody's money. I guess let's say you won it from a lotto ticket or got lucky or something like that. So it is money that you do want to choose to invest or something like that. But
I would probably diversify it across the 6 companies that I'm involved in at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't want to make that sounded off like you're stealing some orphanage's $50,000 or something like that.
Yeah, definitely not that guy.
So if you could go back to the beginning or start of your career and give yourself some personalized advice, what do you think you'd tell yourself?
Keep doing what you're doing. You'll figure it out sometime and get there.
Absolutely.
You know, don't worry about any of the negative downsay or anything else. Just move forward, keep your head down. And, you know, if you find your network, keep your network small, keep the people around you. And, you know, those that are closer. So there's definitely something about there is working with people in the community and other companies as well. And, you know, don't try to hodl things and keep it to yourself. Try to get out there and spread it out as much as you can.
Absolutely. Okay, so has there ever been a time where you were so stressed out you just kind of wanted to stop and give up? And what do you kind of do to make sure you stay out of a negative mindset like that?
Oh, I said this a few minutes ago. There's at least once every 2 or 3 months where I want to just break down, scream, and cry. And I'll sit down on my floor and maybe have a few minutes to myself for all we know here, crying. But it's okay. You know, everybody needs a healthy moment.
Absolutely. And I think that is a part of the whole experience. Nobody gets to get the highs of going through and doing an experience like this and building a career like this without also experiencing some lows.
Yeah, and it's something that a lot of the community doesn't know about me, and I don't really talk about much openly, but I am bipolar, and it's something that a lot of the times that I know that I am firm about things, and it's just something I'm trying to deal with and work through every day, and that adds to my highs and lows. And
absolutely,
probably why I go manic and work 18 hours a day at times too.
Absolutely, I agree, and I appreciate you being so open and honest. I also deal with mental health issues myself, so I know it's not super easy talking about that stuff, but I appreciate you being kind of open and honest about that. So what strengths do you have that make you good at what you do?
I'm really good at hyper focusing. Also, you know, within the stage management realm and working and doing 18, 20-hour festival shifts like a lot of people have seen me do. Just going into things and focusing on it, and you know, my mind might stray and say I'm hungry or I'm tired or this, and 15 minutes later I just have to keep the subconscious thought of this is what I'm pushing for.
Absolutely.
This is the goal.
Absolutely. So you've been doing this for a long time, so obviously you met a lot of artists. Has there ever been a situation where you've quite felt maybe starstruck or a little bit nervous about maybe meeting somebody that you might have looked up to, or just somebody that you were really impressed by?
There's been one or two guys, but it's pretty rare.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so how much of being a musician do you think is making music, and how much of it do you think is marketing, networking, business acumen, and what are some things we don't even think about when it comes to building and maintaining a brand?
It's 100% about the business in my mind. Obviously, artistic creation and everything is a part of it as well. But, when you look at a painter, some of the best painters in the world can't sell their paintings. They don't have a manager. They don't have a marketer. They don't understand the concepts of it. All of these things create you as a brand, an artist, an industry. It can help create community. Some people and brands don't have an understanding of how to create community influence or to be able to maneuver or work with communities in what means, but they're great at developing a brand. However, that brand now needs a subsect that has a community outlet to it. And it's just figuring your strengths in every single one of these departments and outlets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so COVID was obviously a big problem that disrupted the community for year and a half. Now that things are over and everything's been opened back up, how do you think we are doing recovering? And what are some disruptions that you anticipate in the future? And how can we as a community face those challenges?
Can I get the question from you one more time?
Absolutely. How do you feel like we as a community are doing recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh yeah, we're doing solid. I think as concert community, the concert community is coming out and roaring, and I think we definitely are seeing festival ticket counts as a large scale go down, and what we call again hard ticket rooms or club room ticket sales are significantly going up over the last few quarters.
Absolutely. So then, second part of the question, obviously, hopefully we're not going to get another plague anytime soon, but do you foresee any other disruptions or future problems that could potentially occur in the future? Fingers crossed we don't get World War III, but in today's society, you never know.
I hope not. I definitely remember throwing Spaghetti's show in Lawrence, Kansas at the Granada the night that we got the call the whole industry was shutting down, and it felt like 2 years plus of work consistently for us, booking, canceling, rescheduling,
sure, it's gotta be a pretty
booking.
surreal experience. Nothing like that had ever really happened before.
And, we're working and there's no aspect to the end of it until you got your first show. So
Absolutely.
I hope I'm absolutely not prepared because I thought we were essential as entertainment industry workers as a whole before that. And apparently our day-to-day entertainment that I crave so much, and I thought everybody else did too, is not that.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I need it. If I don't have some sort of entertainment or outlet, I am stressed, depressed, lemon zest.
Amen to that.
Okay, so we are running a bit about on time, so I'd like to obviously thank you for coming on. But before we go, is there anything, any upcoming shows, any upcoming events, any merchandising or anything like that you'd like to plug or promote? Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to? Anything kind of like that?
Yeah, shout out to Aaron Gendra, Mike Jones, Patrick Granatello. Aaron's been my partner for years and is one of our up-and-coming lead talent buyers right now for Hy-Tekk. Dan Green with Elevated Life. Ashley Gordon, because she's always there helping my back. Jesse as our mentor for what the Zooks boys and myself have been doing for years now. And then my dog, because, overall my dog is there and happy no matter what's going on in life.
Absolutely. Okay, well, with that, I would like to thank you for coming on. It means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to the community, and I hope they get to, they're glad that they get to learn a little bit more about one of the founding companies and founding people of the local EDM scene. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, shares, ratings, everything like that is greatly appreciated. And remember, you guys stay safe, love each other, look out for each other, and stay sexy, Kansas City.
Yeah, thank you very much, Logan.